Welcome to SSDD Studio. There is waste and there is waste. Circular and sustainable design has been defined by many.
This panel brings together individual designers, studios, and companies that represent examples of how to find, gather, and remake with waste. The exhibition shown here at Lokstallarna and this talk shares the name Matter Displaced.
We welcome to the stage Kajsa Karlsson, Anna Gudmundsdottir, Dag Duberg, and Wickie Meier Engström. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Hi everyone, and welcome to this live talk about Matter Displaced. I'm Kajsa Karlsson, and I'm the deputy editor of Dezeen. And I'm joined here today by Anna Gudmundsdottir, who's an industrial designer and also the co-founder of Matter Displaced. We're also joined by Dag Duberg, who is the Nordic sustainability manager at Tarkett, and by Wickie Meier Engström, who is director and partner at Kvadrat Really. And I know that these guys have prepared a presentation for us, so they're going to talk a bit about who they are and what they do. So, Anna, do you want to get started?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I'm Anna Gudmundsdottir and the co-founder of this brand new concept, Matter Displaced. I co-founded this with Melissa of Studio Marie Carl because we met and we're both interested in waste. She's very knowledgeable about circular design and circular business, and me as an industrial designer, I work with waste and have been doing that for many years. So we met and just felt that we wanted to create a platform or a community to talk about this new loop that is emerging and this new movement of designers and companies working with waste, or as we call it, matter displaced. Because it's not waste if somebody can use it. So what if we reuse the waste material and parts of it before it's being sent into incineration or landfill? The mining, manufacturing, and development of the materials and parts that we use today, we know that has the absolute biggest impact on natural resources and CO2 footprint. One could argue also that the real problem of waste is directly connected to consumption and the way our economy works today. And ideally, we want an economy that would be able to grow without the corresponding increase in environmental pressure. But that transition is going to take time. So in the meantime, what do we do with all these invisible material streams that is left over from other production and in all parts of the value chain? Waste generation has increased around the world in recent decades, and there are no signs of it showing that it will slow down. The world generates 2.1 billion tons of waste annually, and with at least 33% of that extremely conservatively not managed in an environmentally safe way. Less than 20% of the waste is recycled each year, and huge quantities are being sent to landfills. So poor waste management contributes to value and asset loss, climate change, air pollution, and leaching of chemicals. So we really need to talk about this issue, and we need to do something about it. And that's why me and Melissa created this exhibition and this platform to highlight the Nordic examples that with studios and designers that are working with this. This material that is all over the manufacturing process. The designers who are, in our exhibition, we have examples of design studios and pioneers that are creating new materials, creating maybe in smaller scale examples and inspiration for others to talk about what we can do about this and also showcase that this material is usable. And we want to highlight a specific scale also. We have everything from small studios to bigger companies in this collaboration of Matter Displaced to showcase the scalability of using this material. Because it needs to be both, or all scales. Both from local designers who are taking local waste and doing something with it locally in a smaller scale and also internationally in a bigger scale. We need all of them to be a part of this. And even the local examples, even though they may seem small and insignificant, inspirationally, they are very important. And if they can inspire globally, and we can have local, smaller initiatives all over the world, that's going to help everybody. For this exhibition also, we gathered 4 main collaborators, design studios from Better Weather from Denmark, Alexi and Tobias from Iceland and Finland, and Melissa, Studio Marie Carl from Sweden, and Malmö Upcycling Service, which I'm the founder from Sweden, to take on a new challenge. So we gave ourselves 3 months and new waste streams to come up with new products just to showcase what is possible. And even in this short amount of time, we managed to come up with new and creative products. And then the rest of our exhibitors are examples from 4 front-running design studios and companies in Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Iceland, and Denmark. And we're hoping that this can grow. We want to take this concept further. We want to do more exhibitions and initiatives. We want to connect to more, because we believe that collaboration is the way forward. Even if it's big companies or smaller design studios, we need to work together and inspire each other, share resources, and share knowledge in order for us to go forward and talk. So we implore everybody that's working in this way or interested in working in this way to connect with us at Matter Displaced and become a part of our community so that we can grow this platform and develop it further. And now I'm going to hand over to Wickie to talk about Really and Kvadrat.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. So my name is Wickie Meier Engström, and I am one of the founders, a co-founder, a partner, and also today the director of Really. And Really is all about circularity. We were acquired a couple of years ago, actually in 2015, by Kvadrat, and that's why we are named today Kvadrat Really. So we started out as an idea about bringing textile waste into a new product life loop. It was all about creating furniture that has a longer life than textile normally have. For example, fashion, which is kind of consuming a lot of textiles. So we were having the subtitle or the title of the project, From Fashion to Furnitures. So all we do today is composite materials, and it's all for interior use, just to say. It's all about how we can utilize the waste stream of textiles, and there are a lot of waste out there. So it's easy to identify where the textiles are. It's much more difficult to identify the quality of the textiles. As we have a circular loop, we do not do a lot. We do some mechanical processing of the textile into these composite boards. So obviously the deal here is to find out what is the textile we get our hands on. So what comes in comes out in our system, but the textiles will never be textiles again. It will come a totally different product. We have designed our processes to be, you could say, scalable. So it's really a big problem in the world, and a big problem needs a big industrial solution. So that gives us a lot of opportunity, but it also in some respect, limited our creativity, right? And that's why we have to work with designers. We have to employ designers to utilize our materials into great designs that are also designed for circularity, that are also designed to have a long lifespan, multiple functions, and so forth. So industries, designers, material exploration or explorator needs to work together. So it's not about only people, profit, and planet. It's actually also about partnerships. Thank you.
Is it me now? It's you now. Thank you. Hello, I'm Dag Duberg, Sustainability Manager at the floor producer Tarkett. We actually started not many kilometers from here in Limhamn, producing wooden floors in 1887, so I'm not one of the founders. We have worked with circular economy as a core part of our strategy since 2010. And why is circular economy so important for us as a floor producer? We are big. We are about the third biggest floor producer in the world. We do basically every kind of flooring material you can imagine. Wooden floors, vinyl, linoleum, carpet tiles, rubber, laminate, football fields, running tracks, basically everything except stone and ceramics. And it's important for us because it's a major lever to reduce our carbon impact. If looking at our global carbon impact as a company, starting here with raw materials, our total greenhouse gas emission is about this high. If we're looking at the other end, the end of life scenario over here, which is, if we count that every floor that we produce during a year is incinerated, is about this height as well. But if you're looking at our factories, the actual production that takes place after the raw material extraction, it's only about a bit above my knees here, or my hips. And the same goes for transports. It's about the same level. So the big emissions, sources of emissions, greenhouse gases, is actually raw material production or raw material extraction and the end of life scenario. So if we can take some of this waste that today is incinerated or landfilled and move it to the start of the process and put it into our factories, well, we will do three good things. We will, of course, reduce the waste problem in itself. We will save resources, reduce the amount of resources that we use, and we will save a lot of carbon emissions because we'll reduce these guys over here. So that's a core part of our strategy, but as I see it as being Nordic Sustainability Manager, recycling a circular economy is not only about strategy and visions and percentage in the future and so on, it's really down to earth to make it happen in reality. So we worked a lot with, as we call it, recycling in reality, how to make sure that this actually happens. So for instance, what I spend my days doing is make sure that these kind of things, which is trimmings or leftovers when a flooring is installed and vinyl flooring installed in the room, this is kind of the pieces that are left over. That floor installers all over the Nordics put this stuff in these kind of bags, send it to Tarkett in Ronneby, southern part of Sweden, where we sort it and make new floors out of it. Last year in the Nordics, we collected more than 800 tons of these kind of trimmings. So we got raw materials so we could produce an equal to 150,000 square meters just from scrap, saving a lot of CO2. I also try to make sure that as many as possible of these kind of carpet tiles that we also can recycle are collected from offices all over the Nordics, and we send them to our facility in the Netherlands where we separate the yarn from the backing. We send the yarn to depolymerization, and our yarn producer makes the new yarn for us. I try to make sure that as much as possible of the linoleum or these kind of homogeneous vinyl floors that we produce in Ronneby, very popular in hospitals and schools and so on, are also taken out and sent down to us in Ronneby so we can clean off the adhesive and the flooring screed from the backing and use it as new materials.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. So you all mentioned circular design. Circularity is obviously a really important aspect of production at the moment. What makes Matter Displaced different? Are you approaching this subject in a different way, or is it the way you're working with companies?
Well, the way that we see it is circular design, like they said in the beginning, has been defined by many, and it steps all over the value chain. And it starts with the idea. It starts with the design. So in best case scenario, you design away the waste. So that's one part of circular design and circular manufacturing. But we're not there yet. Right now, that's a big transition, and there's so much material left over, both in the production and in other parts of the value chain, and that's what we want to highlight. How can we see this? How can we use this material while we're transitioning into a more circular economy? And maybe that also becomes part of the solution, like industrial symbiosis. Like, how can we connect people, companies and designers who have creative minds to make advantage of this, these streams that we see? As I've visited many factories, and there's always waste. Whenever something is produced, there's waste. And most of the time, it's pretty good material. It's like raw material still. But nobody's keeping track of it.
And so you're connecting these smaller designers who do more perhaps innovative designs or smaller scale design with these larger companies. What's the benefit for a company like Kvadrat or Tarkett from working with like emerging designers?
Well, I can give it a go. I have a background in design myself, and obviously me and my partners came up with this idea about upcycling textiles into composite boards, and we were bought by Kvadrat, who is a high-end, world-leading company within quality textiles and textiles that really last long. I think there is a need. I mean, innovation often comes from outside. It often comes from small, agile entities around, and that can kind of be implemented in bigger companies. So I think that's one point. The other point is that younger designers are not maybe so convenient-driven. You know, you haven't yet found your shelf in the system, and I think there is definitely a need for new design solutions as well. I mean, products has just looked like products for too many years, and there's not been a real innovation in a table or a chair and so on. So I think we could work a little bit more on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it the same way. I mean, us being a big company, industrialized, starting linear, like most companies been for the last 100 years, it's good for us to get these input from designers, architects, or artists that basically have the whole concept is to think outside the box. We can't pay all our employees in Tarkett to think outside the box and don't produce floors. So it's even if we try to be creative, it's really good to have that input from the outside. And I also think that artists and designers can help to promote the picture of recycled material, that this is something cool and innovative and creative and beautiful. So I think it can also carry the whole concept of recyclability and recycled material.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to show in the exhibition as well. Just because it's waste doesn't mean it's not high-end or beautiful or really smart and nice design.
I think also as a material producer, I mean, you don't have the power. You do not do products, and products talks. Material has a much more, quiet language. So you need the products to be the vocabulary of the material at the end of the day, and that catches on, and it gives a lot of power to design. And you can see that design that really is reflecting circularity also underpins the whole idea about circularity and material circularity and so on. So we need that system to work together.
Yeah.
The one cannot exist without the other, I would say.
And I think also when realizing these waste streams, you look on what we produce more as materials. And this has helped us also to actually develop our floors. When we worked a lot with Note Design Studio, and we say we have these floors, and they say, no, this is not a floor, this is material.
Yeah.
So which resulted in that we're using it a lot more on walls and cover furniture and so on. So it's a kind of nice spin-off of looking at it's not just as a floor, but it's actually material.
Yeah, that's what we were seeing as a common denominator in the design studios that we have in our exhibition. Is like many of them start with the material. Like, what is it? How can it be done? And don't look at the current examples. Just like let the material guide and what can this become.
And how do you find the design studios that you're working with, the smaller designers, and how do you connect them to these bigger brands? Do you kind of find a small designer and think, oh, they could work really well with Tarkett, or is it more organic than that?
Well, many of the design studios that we're exhibiting in the exhibition are Nordic examples that me and Melissa, together with our network and the knowledge and media have found and want to showcase the existing examples. And then when it comes to this more material broking, or what you should call it, it's more about looking at what they're good at and what they've done previously, and seeing like, I have a material here for you. This could be a potential great collaboration.
And do you find as well that working with like emerging designers, does it then inspire the products that you're creating? Do you look at the stuff that you created with Note and think, oh, that's nice, we could do something similar, we could do a
Absolutely,
thing, yeah.
Absolutely, it did. I mean, so we we developed a special launch which had a bit of different kind of technical properties, better suited for putting on furniture and things like that. So it's absolutely inspired us.
Yeah, and I can just agree also. I think for us it's a lot about what is the new aesthetics of our material. I mean, it can vary depending on colors coming in, depending on how we mill down the fibers. It can be milled down in multiple different ways. Actually also about the quality of the textile has kind of influences the design aesthetics. And there it's, if we ask the furniture industry, what do you like? They would say, we like all colors, but we will tend to buy a lot of gray. Because that's really how it looks. And this is the experience we also have from Kvadrat. Kvadrat has multiple colors, but when we look at the waste streams, there's just a lot of gray, black, brown, neutral colors, because this is what we all like. We end up with the innovative gray sofa at home, right? So we need somebody to get into that game and to talk about, how could a new aesthetic look? Because I think circularity and sustainability is also going to challenge our way of viewing aesthetics in the future. Because we're so used to perfection, and perfection can only come through having a really firm and good hand on everything you do. And with waste, it's just that there has to be an open end and an open mind to all the different defaults that comes with working with waste.
Yeah, and calling the defaults uniqueness instead.
We all like that.
And that's, of course, one of the challenges we have. Starting as a linear company, aiming on producing the same quality. I mean, you can't tell an architect, the second floor in the hospital will be a bit of different kind of color because it's recycled material. They don't accept that. So we've struggled a lot to make sure that the recycled products or products with recycled content will look exactly as the ones with only virgin material. So we developed a lot of technologies where we can use a lot of recycled material, we can adjust the colors, or we can take out the dye and recolor and so on. But still, we also see that there are some new ideas where we actually should make the recycled stuff look a bit more recycled. So it's a parallel path for us, but our first ambition has been to make sure that a product with recycled content should have exactly the same properties, exactly the same visual aspect as something that is made of from virgin material.
And do you find that there's barriers to working with waste materials because there might not be as much different colors to be working with, or perhaps because customers might be expecting a certain type of look?
Yeah, definitely. Having worked with waste specifically for many years, it has so many more constraints. And then you add the circular design aspect, which is even more constraints. But at the same time, that's where you find new opportunities. That's where creativity can spark. When you put these constraints on yourself or your process, it's like, then that's when you come up with something outside the box, or something you haven't seen before, maybe. And I know you have some, you've been in a long development with your products.
I think it is, it's a whole different system. I think this is, everything we do, from sourcing material to producing material fibers to doing the final product, it's a different system, and it's new. So of course there's a lot of defaults because it's not something that we have inhabited from previous generation. So we are experimenting along the road. The good thing about that is you need to keep it super simple, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere. And by keeping it simple, you also become more sustainable, because it is basically more sustainable to have 2 offers than to have 100 offers. So it's all the business model of having a selection or a design strategy that encounters like too many pieces. It's just going to obtain a lot of resources. It's going to obtain a lot of inventory. It's going to give you too much headache. So really keep it simple. I think that's the baseline in sustainability.
Well, then we need to get that kind of acceptance from architects in our case. If we say we have a new range, it's 4 colors. They're medium gray, and they won't like us. So that's a challenge, of course.
Yeah, how to meet the market and the demand.
And there we actually work, just to say, I think one of the ways you can work with that, I cannot encounter for all industries, but is that you can have a standard collection, and then you can have a more like customizable collection. So, which means that you have maybe totally the same price. It doesn't need, but it could be time of delivery that is then, you have a different performance on that parameter. And I think that's also something you need to discuss with your clients. Then they can have all the defaults and all the uniqueness in colors, but it will just have a different timeline.
And obviously you're all working very closely with this. You're very knowledgeable about the work and the products that you're producing, or the designers that you're connecting people with. Does it ever feel disparaging to think that you're doing all this work, but the industry as a whole hasn't really caught up yet? And where do you think we are? Is this becoming more common? Are big companies thinking more about it? And are smaller designers creating more circular designs to begin with?
I think this is an issue that every designer is approaching right now. Everybody knows that this is we can't keep designing in the way we've done previously. So all the designers that I know are trying to implement circularity in some way of their design. And we also see a lot more design studios and examples, and they are the ones that help change the attitude towards the material. So all examples are equally important, I think. And as for the industry in whole, like the bigger companies, what I've seen is like companies like Kvadrat and Tarkett who are setting the bar higher. It needs to be higher. You can't just say, oh, it lasts for a long time, that's why it's sustainable. There's more to do. And I think more companies are going in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a different strategy working with your strategy and Kvadrat Really strategy. It's a little bit moving from doing less harm to doing more good. So it's more like we need to go out there and test some stuff out. And in that respect, you also need to have a little bit more of risk management. Risk management is a discipline that is also part of a change management system. And I think this is about a change management system in our product world. And it takes time. It's kind of the snowflakes that needs to be an avalanche at a time, but it's just a very slow period of time. I think regulations now, I think designers now are stepping in. We can feel the furniture industry also due to some of the pioneers in there, Velas by others, is actually pushing also the more conservative industry to stepping in. So I think this is like a multiple movement, but it has taken a lot longer than I would ever have imagined. And I've been working with sustainability since I graduated in the last millennium. So it's it's not easy.
Circular economy and sustainability in general, I mean, it's an in thing, I think, but it won't disappear. But everyone is talking about it, and I think we feel a bit alone in our industry. We're probably not perceived as alone because there's a lot of talk about things. For instance, everything in our industry and most other industries are recyclable. And then you need to ask, so what do you mean? So if I want to get rid of this one, will you come and pick it up? Do you have a system for it? And often I think if you really ask the right questions, the answer is, well, no, not really. But I think we tried once in the lab and it was possible to melt it. So it should be possible to recycle.
Yeah.
And so we're struggling a bit with this kind of, let's call it greenwashing.
Yeah, and you make huge quantities as well. So is there someone going to come and get that whole floor?
So this is why we spend so much time with these bags and these pallets and to actually make it happen. Yeah. And I think we have a lot of collaboration that is really with completely different industries. So it's not the flooring industry mainly. It's more like we're working with companies like Rangsells, waste experts. We're taking waste calcium carbonate from water plants in Holland as a raw material. We're doing a lot of things, these kind of cross-industrial collaborations. What we would like to have more collaboration with is the end user, I mean the property owners. They need to understand that the old floor that they will now send to incineration could rather be sent to recycling. So we need their support really to find the projects and find the floors, and then we can connect our system to it. So it's actually recycling.
How that comes into consumer behavior, like, oh, I'm
Yes.
done with it, I'm renovating, it needs to go back.
Yes, it's a mental thing. As I
Yeah.
say, I mean, on a renovation project, we're making a new or conference room here, and everyone is so focused on this new stuff that will come in, and the mood boards on the new colors and so on, and then it's just like, so get rid of the old shit.
Yeah.
Because we're doing something, we're going to buy something that is circular, and we're going to buy ourselves sustainability, while we're kind of forgetting everything that we're standing on that might be able to actually be circular today.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's also important to keep it as a natural part of your business so that every floor tile gets recycled or turned into something new, rather than, I assume for some companies it would just be the case, like you said, of showing that, well, theoretically we could do this, but if you're not actually doing it, then what's the point? So, yeah.
And I think maybe just to have a comment on this, I can sometimes have the feeling that the agenda of circularity has, in a way, advanced the reality of circularity. So there's been so much talk about circularity, so we kind of have the feeling that circularity was so much yesterday. You know, it all happened yesterday, but we have not even touched the forefront of what needs to happen. And I think this is maybe also a little bit my struggle, that I like when people talk about these new small projects, because it kind of empowers everybody to think, okay, we can do something. On the other side, it also, in a way, sometimes it's not about greenwashing, but it maybe speaks too loudly about a small solution being a bigger solution. And then people think that the solutions that are bigger, which is often very much more boring, because we need to have these scaled solution, then it's like, okay, but I've seen it in green, yellow, black, blue, and all these different colors there. Why can you only do it in red and blue, or in white and blue? And it's because that's the major textile streams.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of yellow out there. There's not a lot of green out there. You cannot build an industrial scale on colors that are not represented out there.
So it's about sort of, I don't know, I suppose telling people what's actually possible, and sort of like, for them not to expect to be able to get anything recycled because they've seen a small example of it.
Yeah, it's like Instagram, you know, it's all holiday pictures, and when we look the best, but that's maybe 1% of our life, right? So
Yeah.
And I was thinking that, so the exhibition here at Southern Sweden Design Days, at the stall for Matter Displaced, there's like a very wide range of different materials. So there's ceramics made from seashells, I think, mussels. And there's also materials made from mushroom byproducts.
Yes.
And then you have like more kind of furniture design. Is there any kind of waste that can't be reused, that can't be turned into anything new, or can everything be turned into something?
I would say with enough time and money, anything could be remade. But we wanted to show the range of many possibilities. We had like 2 categories from the beginning: parts to products and powder to products, because those are the main themes that we see, and both are equally necessary. But yeah, with the range, we just wanted to show inspiring examples all across in interior and product, because we think that's how we push it forward with this inspiring. Even though many of the products may be small scale and still prototype, because it's a hurdle to go from the prototype phase to the production phase. That's the biggest challenge, I would say, which we've already gone through. And for many of the new materials, it often gets stuck, you know, in the development phase, in the kitchen or in the small scale. So that's something that we need to support on all fronts. That new and innovative materials or business models or products, they need more support to come over this hurdle, so that we can scale it.
And would that be from government or companies, or?
I think it's an important aspect on upscaling recycle solutions. I mean, it's super easy to buy raw materials from a virgin raw material producer.
Yeah.
They have a price list and you pay and you get the amount you want. But to find these things out there on the market, it's much more complicated. And especially, I mean, a big company like us, if we found like 800 kilos of something, sorry, it's like a few minutes of production. We need tons or hundreds of tons, 1,000 of tons. So we're looking for that kind of waste streams. And we actually started to even develop products, not like the normal way we used to do them, but also actually look for waste streams. Like we found, for instance, PVB, which is a polyvinyl butyrol. It's something that is in the windscreens of cars and in safety glasses. It turns out that there's big streams of that, good quality, and a constant flow from end-of-life vehicles. So we actually said, okay, let's try if we can make a floor out of that, a completely new kind of polymer. So it's a new way of also addressing these kind of problem with the uneven waste streams.
Yeah, because that's an issue when you try to create a continuous series from a continuous waste stream. It still has pauses, because we've done in Malmö Upcycling Service, we've done bigger projects and try to scale it up, but we can't guarantee a continuous waste stream all the time. Most of the time it's possible because it's there, but you just have to say, like, maybe this will take a little bit longer to produce. Maybe it's not like straight off the shelf, but that's also something that can be valued.
But I think it's also a comment to the status quo of the world. There's a lot of contaminated materials out there, and we're allowing a lot of chemicals in materials that should not be allowed due to other factors. And contaminated materials do not become uncontaminated by being recycled. So I think it's really also about thinking, we have, in regards to fire retards, we're just filling every shopping mall with a lot of chemicals that we have no idea what does to us. If we were to take textile back from that and reproduce it in a mechanical upcycling loop as we have, we will expose our people for that kind of toxicities, and that's just a problem.
But if it's public spaces, would that not have been tested once already to make sure that it's
because it's tested for fire retardancy and not for chemical
so you're saying
emissions. So we have a lot of these contradictions in our regulations about materials.
And that's also a conflict between, okay, we're proud because we're making products with a long lifetime, that's very sustainable, but that means that if we want to take back or recycle a floor that is from 1903, we got the chemistry legislation from that time that we need to adapt to. And at present, we don't want to recycle that because we don't want to recycle that old chemistry. We're super, super picky when it comes to our ingredients on the new raw materials that we buy, and we need to be the same level of accuracy and security when it comes to recycled material. But there are technologies. I'll just mention one example. For instance, in Estonia, one of these interesting collaborations. In Estonia, they've been using oil shells for producing heat for decades there. And so now the result now is that they have 600 million tons of ash in the northeastern part of Estonia from this energy production. They will stop using that now, but they still have this environmental issue there. Ragn-Sells have developed a technology where they can take this ash and turn it into calcium carbonate chalk, which we use a lot as fillers, and that will be pure as snow. So it's a long-term product, and we're a big user of calcium carbonate, so hopefully in a few years they've set up a production facility there and we can use that. We will help Estonia to fix an environmental problem. We will get recycled material, and the third good thing is that to make it into calcium carbonate you need to add CO2. So it will actually be a carbon negative filler. So I think with technical development we can solve a lot of these issues, also the one with kind of poison-free loops or clean loops.
So these are the kind of solutions that hopefully are coming in the near future, and until then you can only work with what you have, I suppose. Are you hopeful about the future where we kind of can reuse most of our waste? Do you think that's going to happen at some point?
I think we have to, to be honest, because I think we are struggling with a lot of, environmentally, we are in the perfect storm. We have a biodiversity issue, we have lack of resources are being, overpriced and so on. So I think there's no way out of it. We need to find new ways, and we cannot keep on thinking about, harvesting something from our globe, because we also need to be like 8 billion people here. So it's I think we need to think in new strategies. And I also have the feeling because I can see from our products prices going down, because our streams are being more continuous now, and we are working with the system, and our competitors' virgin products are going up. So hopefully there will be some kind of balance there at a certain point.
And it'll be beneficial for everyone for the prices to go down. I'm going to check and see if there's any questions from the audience at all. We've got a few minutes to go. No, we are all
Over
set.
there?
Oh, we've got one. Lady in the back.
How do you win people over to the idea of products that might have imperfections or that might have longer lead times? Because part of the problem is that everyone wants something that's shiny and new and box scratch. How can you kind of change that perception?
Good question.
Yeah, design-wise, I think you should highlight highlight the imperfection as uniqueness, because people also want to pay for something unique, or they want something that only they have. And if you could highlight it in that way and say, this is the version and only you have this version, nobody else has that version. That's one aspect of it, but it's also much bigger attitude consumer-wise, attitude change consumer-wise, I think.
But I think when it comes to kind of, okay, you can't hold all the colors tomorrow. You need to wait for that special ones a couple of weeks. I mean, that is very common in most industries. If you buy a car or floor or whatever, you got a standard range that we got on stock, and this is special order and so on. So it's something that already dealt with, and it seems to be quite accepted.
Yeah.
I think also you need to have, you cannot move people if you don't meet them where they are. So you need to have a standard offer that is really what they like. But if they want something on top of that, then it takes more time. I would also say generally lead time has just moved immensely over the last year due to transportation and global transportation. So, we have furniture clients that has on certain items, they have 1.5 year waiting time to get that, because there's been an overload of demand in a period of time, and therefore kind of the perception of what time is has actually changed quite a lot. But I think you need to have something that is easy for your clients to understand, and then you need to move from there. Or you need to have a good design strategy. So the imperfection might not be what you see the first. So you might have an overlayer of your material that is perfect, and then all the imperfections are hidden behind a very thin, perfect overlayer that doesn't take too much resources, and then you put it in there. And if you have a tabletop where you have, let's say, a white or natural top, and you have a lot of millennials or multicolored textiles in kind of the core, you could hide that by an edge, right? So it's also sometimes to think a little bit, how can I manage around these imperfections?
I think that's a really good note to end on, because I think we do have to end now, sadly. But this idea that you can kind of make something great out of even things that might appear imperfect at first. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you Southern Sweden Design Days for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.